Okay, hi, so this is a question from the June 2019 paper 2H. It's the higher paper, question 10 now, so this is getting towards the middle. Again, I'll still say it's probably a grade 5 kind of question. Good to know, but it doesn't really matter where the marks come from essentially, just want to get as many as you can. Okay, so Mary travels to work by train every day. The probability that a train will be late on any day is 0.15. And we use decimals. Because obviously they use fractions or percentages, but so it's equivalent to 15% chance. Okay, so but we'll keep it as decimals. Thing to know really, they have to add up to each thing has to add up to 1. Okay, so 15% chance of being late, 85% chance of being not late, because it's one or the other, isn't it? Okay, and then the next one, so Friday. There's no difference because it doesn't say there's a difference on Friday, so therefore it stays exactly. The probability of it being late again is 0.15 or 15%. Okay, so work out the probability that a train will be late on at least one of these days. Okay, now this is where the wording, so it's at least one of these days. So at least one of the days. This could be late both days, that would count. Late and then not late, that would also count. And then not late and then late. The only one really that's not going to get mopped up with this one is if it's not late 2 days in a row. Okay, so all of these satisfy at least will be late on at least one of these days. And to work out the probability of it being late both, you'll do 0.15 times. When it's that and that happening, you're always multiplying. So 0.15 times 0.15. So 0.15 times 0.15 equals 0.0225. And then 0.5 times 0.85. So 0.1 so 15% chance followed by an 85% chance. I'd always check on the calculators because you can easily make mistakes on the decimals here. 7.5. So late then not late, and you might notice that not late then late is going to be exactly the same because it's just timesing the same two numbers together essentially. And then because any of these things can happen, you add them. So if that it could be that, or that. So when we talk about or, it's always the adding rather than the timesing. And I like to write this all down, and you just never know what's going to give you marks, especially if you get something wrong and they can see what you've done. It makes a massive difference to your marks if you can get those working marks. Because you can pick up some follow-on marks. So if you make one mistake here, then you might be able to get some. You just never know. So always structure it nicely and pretend you're kind of reading it from somebody else's point of view. Can you read it? And is it neat? So, oops, 0.2775. 2775. So that is a chance of being late at least one of those. It's nearly 30%, isn't it? 2775. Now what you could have done, so just giving you another tip here, what you could have done is, you just got to be careful with doing this, is times these two together, because it's only one that doesn't include it, so 0.85 times 0.85. So let's just do this quickly as well. 0.85 times 0.85 equals 0.725. Now what you can do, because you know it's everything but this, you can just do 1 minus 0.7225 and that should give you, it's a good double check as well. So if you've got some time, maybe I wouldn't do this straight away, I'll just go back if you've got some time, have a nice double check of it, don't rush these questions, and there we go, exactly the same answer. Okay, so just 2 ways of doing that, and hopefully you've picked up some tips on probability. Thank you.